Hey guys, Steve here from the turtlefollower.com with the stock market outlook video for this week. So if you're just joining us, we're just going to take a quick look at the S&P, the Nasdaq, the Dow, and the Russell Futures. Just see if we can kind of put together a little bit of a plan of where we might want to see some support or some resistance hold just for the week. Again, this is not something that we trade off of, but it's always nice to know when you have the markets trending in the right direction as you're taking a position, basically having the wind at your back, and it gives you a little bit more performance and success for your trade. So right now we'll take a look at the S&P futures, and last week we talked about coming back in, and we had some bottoming tails here on the 15th and 16th. And then sure enough, on the 17th, which was not this past Friday, but the Friday before, we had a reversal. All right, and I had at that point indicated that we probably would have some continuation, at least towards the beginning of the week. I didn't realize that we were actually going to go 4 out of 5 days higher, and each one of them was substantially higher. It wasn't like small moves here. So we essentially rallied from 1879 up to 1960, so almost 100 points in that week, having one down day on Wednesday. So now the question is, do we hold these levels? All right, do we trade above the 50-day moving average? Do we trade around the 50-day moving average? Or do we now reverse and break down below a low and then start with another leg down? All right, making this be a lower high. And as I talked about in the weekend update, if you guys had a chance to watch that, the last pullbacks, they've been pretty much a V-shaped reversals. All right, you can see here we came in and rallied straight higher. Same thing, and again here on the last time we pulled back. Now this one was a little different in that we did not rally off of this trend line, but instead we broke down below it, put in a lower low. So now it looks like maybe that they want to put in a lower high if we were to reverse, or the better case scenario for a longer term bull market here would be to consolidate in this area between, let's say, 1970 and 1900. Maybe we consolidate in that area. Maybe it even goes down a little further, and then we move higher from there. But again, if we can continue and even consolidate and not necessarily reverse, I think that's a good setup for continued move higher. And for right now, though, we're at some key inflection points. You could see that we finally broke back above these uptrend lines, but we're sitting right at the 50-day moving average. 1970 was some significant support at one point, which will now become some resistance. All right, and the next level that I see showing some kind of support would be down here at 1900. So again, between 1900 and 1970, that's the area that I think we maybe play inside for a little bit, and then hopefully break out higher, just because we're positioned pretty much long. But we'll have to wait and see how that works out. But that's just a quick look at the S&P. Let's take a look at the Nasdaq. The Nasdaq is a little bit of a different story in that we broke this downtrend line. We broke above what we were considering to be some significant resistance at 39.76, and we also broke above the 50-day moving average. So now with the Nasdaq, the only real resistance that I see is actually back at the new highs, right around 4,100. All right, I don't really see much other resistance besides that. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the Nasdaq maybe test that early in the week, test this 4,100 level, and maybe it consolidates between 39.76 and 4,100, while the S&P consolidates between 1970 and 1900. So this is the area I'm looking for the Nasdaq to stay in, and then eventually again break out higher over 4,100. But you could see here we did put in a lower low. Right here was a low, here was a lower low. So there's a chance that we can put in a lower high. But again, I don't see a reason that we wouldn't continue to 4,100. The Dow was the weaker of the three. This one hasn't even tested the 50-day moving average yet. All right, so again, put in a lower low. It's still working on that downtrend line. It looks like it's broken it. It looks like it's broken back above the uptrend line. So 16,829 is the area I'm looking at for some resistance on the Dow. You could see that coincides with the 50-day moving average and these previous lows back from the middle of September and from the middle of July. All right, so that looks like an area that we may see some resistance. And again, the key here is we want to consolidate. We want to basically move sideways and then break out higher. If we move sideways and break out lower, then obviously it's a lower high, and then we have to see where we head to. But the key is we definitely want to see some consolidation. We want to see some kind of support building so that we have something to go off of. Right now, if we were to ask where the support is, support's all the way down here at 1,600 or 16,000. So, you could see where it's closed and where it's moved higher from, but we really have no area that we could say, oh, well, there's a low, or we pulled back to. Right now, it's just we haven't even put in any area that we can call out as support. So it's very important on all three of these that we consolidate and put in some kind of sideways action, some kind of consolidation where we can identify the low. But again, for this, I would say this one probably has the least amount of upside, the Nasdaq the most, and the S&P in the middle. The last one we're going to look at is the Russell. And this one, again, this one was in a symmetrical triangle. So this one was in a little bit of a different pattern. All right, it wasn't in an uptrend. It was just really consolidating, moving sideways. It finally broke down, and now look at where it's back to. It's back to testing that breakdown area. All right, 50-day moving average is above it. So this one could very well put in a lower high and then start working its way lower. All right, here was a high, here was another high, lower highs. All right, but now the key is here again: do we consolidate, break out, and test this downtrend line, or is this backside of this uptrend line really the resistance? My bet is going to be that if the market really just moves sideways, that this is going to roll over. All right, I would just see this as basically a retest of a breakdown and then a continued move lower. But you could see on all of these charts, the one thing that I did not mention on any of them is where we are in relation to this 2-year weekly linear regression channel. This being the second standard deviation move, which should hold all or 95% of the move. You could see here on the Russell, we came right to it and bounced. On the Dow Futures, you'll see the same. Okay, right to it, bounced, did work its way a little bit lower, but then on the weekly chart was able to close above it and move higher. The Nasdaq, similar situation. Let's see. Okay, similar situation on the Nasdaq, bouncing off of that level, and the S&P also off of that level. All right, so you can see there, all of these are bouncing off of this level, which should contain 95% of the price action. So that's one of the reasons I think that we move a little bit higher this week, but I also think that we consolidate and move sideways. So if we can go ahead and hold these levels, I think that sets us up very well going forward into the end of the year. But for right now, we're going to wait to see what happens, and we're going to just keep taking individual trades off their own individual merit, off their own breakouts, and have the idea of what the market's going to do just as a little bit of a backdrop. So that's it for today, guys. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Please visit us tonight for the strategy session, and we'll see you later. Have a great rest of the day. Take care.